Does shopping for natural fibres and more sustainable fabrics mean that you're limited to solid colours in muted tones? Do you have to ignore your love of vibrant colour and bold prints? My guest today would answer no to both these questions. Tanya Brooman from Bornella Fabrics tells me about the sustainability ethos that underpins her fabric business and what most frustrates her about the fabric industry today. So stick around a few minutes and we'll hear from Tanya. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 17 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge, Me Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate and ecological crises, and I'm looking at the way that my lifestyle contributes to them. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. Hello, lovely one. How are you today and what are you up to? So here is a sustainability win that I had this week that might inspire you. So I had a bunch of me-made garments in my wardrobe that I've made over the last year or two, all lovely things I've worked hard on, but I wasn't wearing them mainly because they no longer fit. A few of the pieces I'm sending off to my best mate because they're definitely her vibe. But then the others, I ummed and ahed about whether or not to list them on Vinted. In the end, I decided to try selling them through my stories on Instagram, and it totally worked. I sold 5 items to people who follow me on Instagram, and now each of those items are with a lovely new owner who will hopefully love and wear each piece. And I have a bit of cash now to offset the cost of all the supplies I keep buying now that I'm obsessed with making undies. Anyway, it's a reminder that if there are items in your wardrobe that you just don't fit anymore, they could be with a new owner seeing the love that they deserve to receive. Whether they're me-mades or shop-bought items, they could also bring you in some funds. So why not have a sort out and see if there's anything that could be sold via Instagram or Vinted or eBay or elsewhere. So no new patrons to thank this week, but huge thanks to existing patron Celine for upping the amount of their support. I really do appreciate that, Celine. Thank you. If you feel you could chuck a couple of quid my way each month to keep the lights on and the coffee flowing so that I can make regular episodes, then please head to patreon.com/checkyourthread to sign up. I've just scheduled November's mending meetups, although by the time that this goes out, we will have just done the first. And there's also going to be some more sew together sessions scheduled soon after the success of the first one. That's where I set up a Zoom chat and any patron can join and hang out whilst working on any type of sewing project that they like. The first trial one was super fun, so more will definitely be on the way soon. Okay, let's crack on. It was so nice to get to talk to Tanya properly after having chatted with her briefly a couple of times for a couple of different episodes. If you're interested in the topics of small businesses, fabric business and so on, I've made a bunch of relevant episodes. But I recommend that you start with No Small Business on a Dead Planet, which is episode 143. I'll pop a link to that in the show notes so you can queue it up with ease after listening to this one. So until next week, where we'll be tackling the question of how to sew more sustainably for kids who can be notoriously fussy and whimsical. Take care of yourselves, take care of those you love and those who deserve it. See if you have any clothes you're not wearing, me-made or shop-bought, that might bring you in a few quid. And enjoy. Right, carry on. You bought a big roll of sweatshirting.
So I bought a big roll of sweatshirting because I had I think it was Halloween project, and kids both wanted something from black sweatshirting. So I was like, fine, I'll buy a bolt. And then I was like, I've got all this sweatshirting. Fine, I'll make gifts. It's fine. And then I can zhuzh it up with little,
you can personalise it.
Yeah. So I made many jumpers, tracksuit bottoms, things like that. Things like the sweatshirting. And yeah, my dad, I even embroidered something on it for him. And the one-word review of fine. And I was like, I'll never...
Have you spoken to him since? Because I'm not sure I would.
Wow. He ended up giving it back.
This dude, I'm sorry.
I love my dad so much, but...
Do you? He doesn't deserve it.
Anyway,
wow.
I think my husband then got that jumper, which he then gave to my son, who is now...
Is anyone wearing this sweatshirt? I'm worried about it.
It's not even that bad. Like, genuinely, it's just a black sweatshirt. But for some reason, people. I don't know why, nobody
It didn't land. That one didn't land.
No. So anyway, sewing for gifts. It's not.
Yeah,
No.
it's out the window. Yeah,
No.
I can't be asked. Sometimes a little pouch, But then
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, 2 Christmases ago, I organised a very cute little craft fair with my friend in the local community centre.
Yeah.
And she's a ceramicist. She had some lovely bits and bobs that she was selling. So we, had lots of stalls, but also we were like, let's have a stall ourselves and we share one, And I was like, right, well, I'll just sew some bits. I had, some fabric. So I made a load of like reversible cowl neck warmer things.
Yeah.
From thick sweatshirting, which looked really cool, and some pouches, some wash bags and some purses and some scrunchies, and then they've just been being given as gifts ever since. I think I've got 2 cowl necks and 1 wash bag left, maybe 1 scrunchie. But yeah, so then that was just the gifts going forward.
The gifts that will continue to give.
Yeah. Once I'm out of stock, I'm like, I might have to do another craft. But yeah, I don't know if I can be bothered. Yeah, I just want, as we say, I just want to make pants that take an evening at best, and then you've got, I'm all. Do you know what?
Quick wins. So I've got to be honest. When you sew with wovens, and you're like, it takes time, but the jersey quick wins, you can't beat it.
All about it. Anyway, welcome to the podcast proper. We've heard your voice on Check Your Thread a couple of times before. I think once at the Knitting and Stitching Show back in 2023, so long ago. And also more recently in episode 202, when I was recording some of the action at the fabric swap you recently organised. But I've invited you back not only because you're a delight, but because I wanted to hear more about your sustainability-minded small business and to explore some of the difficulties and dichotomies that we were touching upon the last time we spoke. And you said yes, which is awesome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Zoe. Honestly, thank you.
On a rainy Monday morning.
I know.
Nice. So could you please tell us who you are, where you are, and what fills your days?
Okay, so I am Tanya. I run a business called Bornella Fabrics. So I set up my business maybe 4.5 years ago, something like that. And I like to say I specialise in sustainable sewing for the modern maker. So
nice tagline.
I try. My background was in advertising, so
nailed
it. So I'm based in Southeast London, just near to where the fabric swap was actually. And so my days, I do run Bornella Fabrics full time, but I am also a full time mum, and have all the other responsibilities of life. So
all the other hats.
Exactly. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
So you started Bornella about 4.5 years ago, you say. So was sustainability a key consideration like from the beginning, or is that something that's evolved as you've continued?
No, sustainability was my number one idea. So just to give you a little bit of background, I wasn't working. I basically quit advertising because 2 children in advertising one child, working in advertising, really hard work. 2 children, I couldn't make it work. So I wasn't working, and then COVID hit, and so I was the stay-at-home full-time mum, homeschool mum. So whilst that was going on in the background, I got really into sewing. I sewed before COVID
as a bit of a kind of escape, something for you at the end of the day type thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of us can relate.
Exactly. So although I had started sewing before COVID, only just, but I would say that was when I sort of really did my sort of deep dive into, because I would really look forward to that time in the evening where, as we all did.
Sewing, wine, let's go.
Exactly. Off we go. So I just got really good at buying fabric for me as a home sewer. And anyway, as I sort of progressed, the kids were slowly going back to school. I wanted to start a fabric shop, but I absolutely wanted to do something sustainable because I found it really hard when I was shopping to know what I was looking for. I wanted to buy sustainably, but I didn't, at that point, there wasn't really a sort of one-stop shop. I think there were a few of us now, but at that point, there wasn't really one place. You really had to look and sort of know what you were looking for, maybe.
Sure, decipher the listings.
Exactly. And then, a lot of businesses say they have a sustainable element, and that's great. But I just wanted to be able to shop somewhere that someone's done all the hard work for me, quite honestly. So that was the sort of basis of what I wanted the business to start with. And it was very much driven by my kids, actually. They kept coming back from school, telling me all about the things that they were learning at school. It really influenced me. I was influenced. Oh. I started off in that way. And then as time has gone on and progressed, that's when I've honed it a little bit more. But that's a sort of, you do it on the job, because I think you can't necessarily start a business having all the answers.
Of course.
Absolutely have to start with a great platform and then adapt and work as you go along.
Yeah. So as we were discussing at the fabric swap that you organised with Yvette from Stash Up, buying and selling new fabric, virgin fabric, can be tricky to describe as sustainable. But
yes.
What makes Bornella Fabrics a more sustainable fabric shop to order from then? And how do you consider sustainability when you're sourcing your stock?
Okay, that's a really good question. And by the way, the sort of dichotomy of new stuff, needing to sort of sell new stuff. I am a business at the end of the day. I do need to make money, but also that guilt, that terrible, like, I'm adding, me and my products adding to this sort of big mountain of stuff that we don't maybe necessarily need. So I completely get it. And it's something I sort of struggled with. Part of the reason I did the fabric swap was to sort of give back a little bit.
Yeah. We'll touch upon that in a bit.
But yeah, we'll come back to that. So yeah, in terms of my business, so I have a hard and fast rule that I will not stock polyester. I do not like polyester or poly blends or any sort of synthetics. I do have two exceptions though. One is thread. I stock recycled polyester thread. The reason for that is my machine does not like cotton thread. I've tried different threads and I don't find them as strong. I don't know, the bits get in the machine. So that's why I stock recycled polyester thread. And the other one is the sewing labels that I produce. Right. I looked into lots of different options, but again, recycled polyester was where I ended up.
Yeah, I can understand that, because I was looking into labels as well at one point, and there are cotton options, but I don't think that they hold the print very well. I think they wash away very quickly.
Yeah, the whole thing with sustainability is compromise, I think. There is no perfect solution to anything. You could live without a label, that would be an option. But let's face it, some of the reason that we sew as home sewers is that we want to make our items special and we want to make them different. And so adding all these little finishing touches, whatever they are the things that are going to make us keep wanting to wear the garment, and they just give us great joy. And so I don't want to stop doing them for that reason, because although we could of course live without a sewing label, but it's a nice to have.
It's a nice finish.
Yeah.
So what about when you're stocking your fabric? How beyond avoiding polyester, what are you looking for when you're sourcing your fabrics?
So I try to stock things that have some sort of eco-friendly or element to it. So whether that's sort of Oecotec certified, so that's where all the sort of chemicals from the manufacturing process have been washed or removed, or whether that's organic or another eco element to it. So I do look for that. It is hard though, I'm not going to lie to you. It's really, really hard to find good quality fabrics that you can be really certain of the provenance of.
Sure.
And that come with those things. So in an ideal world, I'd like to stock only organic, let's say, but I can't always get those products. Also, I've put myself down a rabbit hole because I really like colour and print and pattern. And what you tend to find is that a lot of the really colourful prints are on synthetics, because synthetics hold the colour better. And so what you tend to find is all the really great jazzy prints that I would love to stock are just maybe not always available on, let's say, a cotton base or a Eco Vero base or something like that. So this is why I wanted the one-stop shop where I could know that the prints and the things I was after, all that hard work's done for you, because I genuinely find it very difficult to source good quality fabrics and haberdashery that tick all those boxes, those sort of sustainable boxes.
I really like the page on your website where you break down all the the different kinds of fabrics and fibers that you sell, and you're very kind of open and transparent about the eco credentials or lack of, and what have you of each of them. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes, because I think that's a really nice kind of education that you're kind of offering to your customers, because you've not been sewing forever, and it's taken you a while to kind of accrue this knowledge, because it is hard, and it's hard to know where to go for answers, and you don't know what you don't know as well, don't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like that thing of, when you go down the rabbit hole and find out more and more. But if you don't know, if you're starting out, or even if you're an experienced sewer, quite often, there's a lot that you maybe don't know.
Exactly. And if it's not your job, you might not necessarily know to look,
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
I just want to make a nice thing when I'm tired at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of things where, for example, I remember listening to a podcast, and somebody, not your podcast.
What? You listen to other ones?
But they were saying, I don't like sewing with polyester. But the next sentence, they started telling me, saying about how they were sewing with a crepe de chine. And I was thinking, I'm pretty sure that's polyester. Because a lot of times it won't say on the, the website, whatever, polyester, but it will be called tulle, which is the weave, the tulle or the crepe de chine or georgette or things like this. So you might think, that's a fabric category, and that is right, but maybe you haven't realised what that's made out of. So even if you know what you're looking for, there can be a little bit of confusion maybe, or not even confusion, just sort of just
blind spots.
Exactly. And I don't want to be preaching to anybody and saying you can't sew these things. It's just about education, make your choice.
So what sustainability related questions have you received from customers or potential customers?
Okay, so I'm going to be quite honest here. I don't get a lot of sustainability questions.
Well, maybe that's because your website's so clear.
I'm going to say I find it really surprising, because I genuinely thought I would get more. What I find is that the big shows that I do...
I was going to say, is there a difference between the emails you receive to the conversations you have when you're at Knit and Stitch? And
Absolutely. So I'm going to say that maybe the customers that have found me online or on Instagram have maybe had the opportunity to sort of look at the website, and they maybe know a little bit more about what my business is about. But obviously the big shows like the Stitch Festival, Knit and Stitch Show, you might be coming at this might be the first time that we come across each other. So I do get more questions at the Knit and Stitch Show.
Which is kind of the benefit for a small business to do those kind of shows, isn't it? So you can get out there and go, I didn't know you existed. Like, well, here I am. Take my card.
Exactly. No, those big shows are fantastic for small businesses, because they really give you an audience that, takes you a really, really long time to find otherwise. So I get questions about, well, what is sustainable fabric? Why is your fabric different than this fabric?
Because, to glance at it, your stall looks like a beautiful range of very colourful, stunning printed fabrics. And there's another one over there.
Exactly. No, and so, so there is obviously an education piece about. So I would always say to customers, my goal is that whatever fabrics I'm selling will rot down at the end of its life. So
that's a really nice way to, just to encapsulate it. Like, this won't live on the planet forever.
Exactly. Maybe the little bit of thread, sure, maybe the label. But apart from that, everything else can be reused. And you can reuse the label if it comes to the time that you want to take it out and move it onto a new garment. That's fine. Same with buttons. But at the end of its life, I want to know that it will be able to rot down and obviously not leave big footprint on the planet. That's my goal. But I genuinely think people don't buy based on sustainability. I think people buy based on price. They buy based on print, or whatever the colour or fabric is on the fabric, the base cloth. And then I think sustainability comes maybe down the pecking order. I'm going to say 4th or 5th, which is a surprise, because that's not how I necessarily shop. But I have to remember that I am not my own customer. I am to a point.
I mean, you wear a lot of your fabrics, but
I won't stock anything that I don't like. There is that. I definitely won't do that. So 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 I think that's why there are less questions. I mean, I also think at those big shows, the problem is there is a little bit of sales fever that goes on, and people just get carried away in the moment, and maybe they don't make, some people, not everyone, make the choices that maybe they would, like more considered purchases if they were buying online.
Yeah. When you've got that little bit of time to think, and you're not under the
Exactly.
bright lights and the people clutching the bolts of fabric.
Exactly, and you don't want to miss out, and you can see how much is left, and so I do get that those shows can also be really overwhelming, and your plan can go out the window very quickly.
Our new plans appear very rapidly.
Exactly.
Of course, I'm definitely into bra making now. Get me all the supplies.
Oh, yeah.
This beautiful kit. Yes, let's go. I didn't know I was into crochet. Let's do that.
Who knew?
Yeah, we've all been guilty of it. Yeah, it's really hard to keep your cool at those shows.
It is. And there's nothing wrong with being influenced, but it just depends what your priorities are. So if you're going with, an open mind and, an open and an open budget.
Well, lucky you is all I can say.
Yeah.
So do you enjoy doing the shows? Do you enjoy interacting with customers and introducing your products to new faces?
So yes, I would say the shows are a blessing and a curse. So I really love the shows. I love meeting people. The one thing I've really noticed about being an online business, so I genuinely thought being an online business is I would not know who my customers are. It would be very nondescript. You get an order, you send it out. It is not like that at all. I know who my customers are. I know who my customer base is. People come out the woodwork, they talk to you, they send you emails, they message you. It's really nice. I really, really like it. It's the one great joy, the connection is the great joy I have in the business. So that means that those days, 4 days or however long the show is, I absolutely love it because I get really energized by meeting people, talking through their sewing plans, because quite honestly, their sewing plans feel like my sewing plans.
I'm very invested in your project.
Exactly. What I like less is the build up, and the breakdown, and the month
planning.
I am a one person business, so everything falls down to me, and so it can be quite stressful.
And you've got to maintain your own business as well whilst all this additional workload is coming on, and the additional cost as well, because having to prepare for your stock in advance, that's a big outlay, isn't it?
Cash flow, I've realised, is the key to business, and trying to keep cash flow going so you can achieve all the things. I try and do my own range of fabrics once or twice a year, again depending on budget, but trying to, because all the outlay for the shows, all the stock outlay, everything is all up front, and you just really have to cross your fingers and hope that you're gonna make it back, which so far, touch wood, I have, but you never know. So you are taking a big risk with these shows that you're going to be able
cheap,
to.
Are they?
Oh no, no, they really aren't. But that said, the reward from the end of it, is worth doing, because it's not just the sales on the day. It's also, you're meeting your customers, you're being able to talk to them and find out what they're really interested in.
Yeah.
Like I say, being able to sort of educate around sustainability or explaining what it is that makes my business what it is and important to me. And then you get, the trickle of sales afterwards as well. So there's definitely a sort of long tail of sales where people come back to you in the coming, days, weeks, months.
I'm assuming it's useful as well to see what people gravitate towards as well, like on the stand.
But I mean, I don't know if I know you've worked at Fabric Godmother stand, but what I sell online does not necessarily relate to what sells well in person.
Interesting.
So online things go crackers, and you put it on the stand and it doesn't.
Oh,
so
interesting.
It is weird. So it might be just the way that things are photographed or how they appear. Fabric is obviously really tactile.
We very, very, on the Fabric on the stand, we don't even bother anymore to bring solids. It's just people are just magpies for the prints at the shows. Whereas I think maybe you might be more looking for like a really good quality organic cotton sweatshirt fabric or something like that if you're at home for a specific project. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, just the way that it's displayed, like sometimes, because you just see the edge of the bolt,
True.
whereas
Yeah.
online you get the opportunity to see the whole fabric. So unless, that edge of the bolt is going to catch your eye,
Yeah. That's a good
you might
point. Yeah.
easily, move on to the next bigger, brighter thing that you see. So
Yeah.
there's definitely, unless you're a real focused shopper that, I've got my list, I want some denim, I want some, I don't know, cotton, viscose, and right, okay, I'm going to try and look for the denim, because you do have to, like, even if you display it as wonderfully as you can, you still have to have a rummage in those shows to be able to find the bits that you're really after.
Yeah. And if it's the nicest denim in the world, it's never going to be as eye-catching as a wild print.
Exactly.
Even for someone like me who's obsessed with denim. Even I can see that. So what's the most frustrating thing about running your business or things from a sustainability standpoint?
I would say sourcing. So the last few years, I go to there's a big trade show in London that's on twice a year, and naively, I thought that in these, maybe naively, hopefully, I thought, 4 years ago, I was like, okay, there's, this much sustainable stuff, natural fibres, let's call it. And, in the coming years, because sustainability is on everybody's sort of lips, it will translate into there'll be more sustainable fibres, more natural fibres. And if anything, it's gone the complete opposite way around.
Interesting.
It is a sea. Honestly, I cannot tell you, Zoe, it is a sea of polyester. All those samples, it is horrifying. And, and the terrible thing is that half of these suppliers I can't buy from because the minimum order quantities are thousands of meters.
Their minimums are wild, yeah.
Oh, yeah, 4,000 meters, 5,000 meters, something like that.
No, that's not what we're dealing with here. Yeah, we're dealing with maybe 2 bolts, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Give me 20, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But, and you just think, all of those samples, and they're all synthetics, it is shocking. And even when you speak to people and they say, oh, this is sustainable, and you're like, but why is it sustainable? Because I always ask why, because one person's idea of sustainability is not another person's.
Absolutely. It's like the whole vegan leather debate, isn't it? Or vegan wool. It's like, a cow didn't die, but this is going to stay on the planet forever. So it's like,
I know. Well, it's like, I remember having a conversation. There was a beautiful, beautiful fabrics, really lovely. They were like a jacquard, and they had some of them had ever so slight shiny weave that went through it. And you're like, what's it made of? The guy's like, but it's only 5% polyester. And I was like, that's still polyester.
And it's
like,
throughout the whole thing, or metallic threads as well.
Exactly. And I was like, but that's like the equivalent of going like wafer thin ham. You're like, okay, for a vegetarian, but it's
not much ham in this sandwich.
Exactly. So that's what I find really frustrating is you'll get these amazing things, and there's so much amazing fabric out there that could be if you just made a little bit more thought and effort into it.
Do you know what? You really reminded me of when a while ago, God, it must have been 2, 3, maybe even 4 years ago now, some of us from Fabric Godmother went to the Future Fabrics Expo in London. I made a podcast episode about it, actually. I'll put the link in the show notes. It was super interesting, and there were all these really interesting like innovations in fibre, like the banana leaf, the cocoa husk, the fish scales, all these incredible innovations that were coming through. And I was thinking, okay, great, well, within 4 years, it will be so the minimums are so low and they're now something that we can access as home sewers. No, who's now sewing with banana leaf at home? No one. It's not available. It's not got to the point where it's even trickled down enough for it to be more common in mass manufacture, let alone any further down. And it's so frustrating because the technology is out there and the want is there, but maybe it's not enough, and it's just like,
because I saw this pineapple leaf fabric, much the same, but in order to make it into a fabric, they have to mix it with 50% polyester, which to me negates the. Against the door. So I can't.
Or they have to use so many chemicals to turn it into an actual fibre that they can be spun and woven.
So yeah, that really frustrates me. And, and all the suppliers that I speak to there, I always talk to them because I don't want to just walk off and say nothing. I mean, not all of them,
because
clearly,
you
but
want them to know that
yeah,
there is interest for these
yes,
things at a different
yeah,
scale. Yeah.
yeah. So, and I'll be quite clear with them and, I'll talk to them. But even the buyers, the fashion buyers or from these companies, one of them turned around to me and said to me, but you can't run a business like that. And I was like, but I am running a business like this.
Pretty sure I can. Yeah, that's happening.
Because, synthetic fabric is so, just.
Go on, say it. It's woven into, yeah, go on.
It is, but it's like in the mindset of, but ironically, the stupid thing is when we did the fabric swap, the things that were left at the end of the day were all synthetic.
Well, let's talk about the fabric swap. I'm fascinated. So from what I could tell of the day, like it looked like it was a huge success. So congratulations. But yeah, so because I wanted to know like what you were left with at the end and then what happened to it. So what was that?
Right. So full disclaimer here.
I don't know. I ran away and left it to Yvette. Is that what you're going to say?
No. So I have done nothing.
Put it all in the
with
bin.
The leftovers.
Oh, okay.
The leftovers are currently sat in my studio waiting to be sorted. So about a week or 2 weeks, 2 weeks after the fabric swap was a knit and stitch show. And as I'm a one-woman business, I had to
nothing was happening beyond focusing on that. Yeah.
And then
you didn't even talk to your family.
Nothing was happening after the knit and stitch show as well, because I was also quite broken. So, and then it was half term for 2 weeks. So we've had 1 week of, I'm going to say normal business, and I've done zero about these. But this thing, I've got people lined up. So I have a local business charity who want supplies. They help women who look after disabled children to basically sew. They have a weekly sewing group on a Tuesday, and it's their way of sort of bringing a community together and sort of taking time away from obviously their caring needs. So they're going to get a big chunk of the leftovers. I've got 2 schools that are up for supplies, so I'm going to see how much they want. I've got another charity that got in touch that they would like supplies too. And then there's also a guy in my studio who does like a forest school with kids. So he wants to he only wants natural fibres so that the kids can sort of do their crafting outdoors in the forest school.
And if a bit falls on the floor and doesn't get picked up, it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. So,
nice.
Yeah, so I don't think I think there'll be very little that actually will end up being recycled, if I'm completely honest.
Fantastic.
I think most of it will be
How much was left over? Like, did it feel like kind of what you're expecting?
It was less than I thought, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
so I've never done a fabric swap before, so this was
so there's
new territory.
No bar.
Exactly. So it all fits underneath my table. So let's say a dining room table size. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all underneath that in the studio.
If I had a studio, I would have been exactly the same. It's going in there. And future Zoe is going to do it. Yeah.
Future Tanya has plans for it. She just hasn't done them yet.
She's going to do it. Don't rush future Tanya.
So
she's busy.
no. But it's funny because I do think a lot of the stuff is perfect for sort of small crafts and little things like the schools when they want to have little sort of messing around. So I don't think there's massive amounts dressmaking wise. I think this tends to be the smaller lengths and the scraps that got left, and a lot of patterns actually, which I'm surprised by. I think a lot of them are the patterns, the big 4 patterns, and I imagine are the ones that come in the magazines where you get the sort of random patterns,
the 3
4
ones
patterns.
You may be interested in one possibly.
Exactly. So
I wish they wouldn't do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wish they'd maybe give you, instead of giving you the paper patterns, which obviously looks very appealing in the envelope on the shop, but maybe gave you a QR code for accessing for patterns. Do you know what I mean? So then you could download the one if you actually want them.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my little hot take for the sewing magazines. So we touched on this on the day, but what drove you to organise the swap? And playing devil's advocate, doesn't it potentially take away custom from your business as a fabric seller if people are swapping rather than buying?
So yes, of course, there is always the chance that it's going to take away from the business. But actually, I'm going to say I don't think it It will. If anything, I think it's going to reinforce the fact that I don't want to sound patronising, but I get you, because I'm a home sewer too. And I completely get, I have the same issues as everyone else, that we've got stuff that we don't necessarily want to use, but we have for one reason or the other, whether we've been gifted
It's
it,
been
bought
accrued.
it.
Yep.
It's there. And so I would, the most sustainable option is always use what you have. So if it already exists, why on earth wouldn't we put it back into circulation? So I genuinely don't think it would take away from the business. And if it does, it's fine. It's not going to take a huge amount away. But the reason I really wanted to do it, I said to you on the day, I didn't have the confidence. I've wanted to do a fabric swap for a long time, and I didn't have the confidence to do it. I went to the big one in Craft Central that Sarah had organised, and I spoke to her at the time because she was saying to me at the time, you should do one. And I am very nervous about organising things that involve people turning up because I am always convinced that no one will come.
Your self-esteem is not very good.
No, I know, but I don't know. I just feel like a fraud all the time.
You were very surprised on the day that people actually turned up.
I'm still very surprised.
They actually came.
I'm still surprised. So I didn't have the confidence to do it. So when Yvette asked, would you be up for sort of doing it together? Absolutely, I would, because it was genuinely something I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to, because I'd been to the big fabric swap and I'd seen the great joy and the connection that everybody had coming together, and not having the pressure of like those big shows that, you need to buy something, or it was just a nice social event with some fabric swapping on the side. Yeah. And that's how I viewed it, rather than maybe a fabric swap with a bit of social on the side.
It was nice that the premises where you held it as well, there was a cafe as well, so people could go and have a coffee, have a bite to eat, and then go back again, and it didn't feel so overwhelming. You could have a break and see if the table had been refreshed a bit and meet some new faces. That was really nice.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice that it worked out that way. That's sort of how I wanted it to work. I mean, years ago, after the Craft Central one, I did actually inquire, and not at the studios, but a different location near here, about renting the space out to do one. Never got an answer back, and I thought, oh well, that's the universe telling me it's not to be. So actually, I think where we ended up doing it at the studios in Woolwich was a nice venue. It wasn't too big. It like you say, the cafe was there. There was some outside space, and I think a lot of people quite liked the fact that you could just dip in and dip out and didn't have that sort of
it felt less pressured.
Yeah, I am under no illusion that running a fabric business, or any business that creates stuff that puts back in the world, is adding to stuff, whatever the stuff is. And that was one of my big sort of things that I wanted to be able to do, was make sure that people can still access fabric without the emotions of the guilt, because I think fabric and emotion go hand in hand, or at least they do for me, especially your stash. And the commitment to your stash can feel very overwhelming sometimes, and the pressure to sort of be buying new rather than using what we already have can again also feel quite overwhelming sometimes,
especially at the shows. Yeah,
exactly. And so in many ways it's sort of the shows help build my business, but the fabric swap gives me what word am I going to use? It's
the responsibility.
Yeah, I guess so. It's not. I'm not big corporate land of corporate social responsibility, but that's the bit that I really, really put my passion and energy into, because that's the bit
But that's what fuels you.
Exactly. So I need the big shows to build the business and to drive the business. But the fabric swap and the little things that I do along that side are the things that really make me stand apart and give me the satisfaction of knowing that I am trying to be as sustainable as possible, and I am living up to sort of my internal goal of when I set the business up, how do I make it sustainable? Well, this is one of the ways I can do it.
Amazing. Awesome. So speaking of your stash, so what does it look like honestly, and how has it changed over the years?
Okay, so when I first started sewing, before I first started sewing, I already had a stash.
Okay.
Is it
a fabric lover first?
No, well, sort of. So
Did you inherit a load of fabric?
Yeah, I did. So I inherited fabric, and I could have said no to it.
So fabric found you.
Yeah, it did. So fabric definitely found me. And funny enough, I have never used any of those bits.
Oh.
But I don't feel I can get rid of them.
Okay, go on, tell us about it.
So I have a lot of my great Aunt Lydia's stash. And yeah, so some of it I will never use, but I just like that it's there, and I'm happy that it's there. But it's not me. There's a lot of brown in there. That's not me. But one day they'll, I'll get round to. I'm just waiting for the perfect piece to come along and say it's going to be this, but it hasn't come along yet. And then I inherited some more stuff, and a friend of mine moved to New Zealand. So before I knew it, I had quite a bit of fabric, and I hadn't actually sewn any of it.
Why did your friend think to give it to you and you didn't even sew when they moved?
Because she had a lot of dressmaking stuff, and she knew I owned a sewing machine, which my mum had bought me, and all I'd made is cushions and a set of curtains, I think. I don't think I'd done anything.
Oh, she's like, right, the one person I know with a sewing machine.
Yes.
Take my fabric, I'm moving.
Here you go. So I'm still working my way through it. I've swapped a few bits of hers just because they weren't. But actually, do you know what? It genuinely came in handy for things like kids' dressing up days where we've had to, I don't know, go
last minute World Book Day.
Absolutely, all of those things, those dress up days at school.
Yeah. So, it's Viking Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
So because of a lot of her stash was not my taste, but actually it turns out it was perfect for those uses. So that's fine. Yeah, so I've chipped away at that slowly. And then when I actually started my dressmaking journey, I got really good at buying fabric, probably too good at buying fabric, which is part of the reason I set up a fabric business, because I just felt that
I've got to rely for this.
But at no point I think it. I mean, my husband might say otherwise. I don't think it ever got out of control. Since opening the business, I think I've only ever bought one piece of fabric.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because you buy it by the boatload.
I know. I've turned my stash industrial, is how I like to say. I do buy fabrics for the business because I want to wear them. And I am absolutely open with that.
You have a very good eye.
Well, for me, it suits me. But I run my business in the way that I would always buy fabric that I would be prepared to wear myself. So I don't like brown particularly. That's why you won't see that many brown fabrics in my shop. Just because if I'm not prepared to wear it, it doesn't get stocked. So that's how. But in a way, I've become way more sustainable this way, despite the fact I'm obviously buying 10 meters rather than 1 meter of something for personal use. But what it has made me do is be really careful about how much I then cut for myself, how much I'm cutting out. I genuinely have very, very little waste now for my home sewing, because I like to sew as sustainably as I can. And I would say most sustainable way of sewing is to cut out cleverly.
So do you cut out on the flat, for example?
Yeah, for the most part. So what I tend to do is, and it works for me, but I realise that every fabric width is different, and people are different sizes. So it's not going to work for everyone, but I tend to, if I'm cutting on the fold, I fold just as wide as the piece is, and then I cut, and then I see what I'm left with, and then if I can squeeze in another bit, great, or maybe one sleeve, rather than. So normally most widths of fabric you can get a sort of across the back or across the front, something on the fold, and then you're left with a portion that's normally big enough for one sleeve. Doesn't always work, but mostly that's how I can manage it. So you can use an awful lot less fabric doing that way. Again, I'm a fabric shop. I should be persuading people to buy more fabric, but if you cut cleverly, you don't need to. You can always, I'm going to say cheat the system, but don't follow those lay plans, because they are really wasteful.
So what other ways do you have to help you try and sew more sustainably as a home sewer yourself?
Yeah, so scraps, keep those scraps because they always come in handy somehow. Not every tiny scrap, admittedly. But what I find, and I don't know about you, Zoe, but the drapey fabrics are really hard to do small
They're
projects with.
definitely harder for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Whereas your cottons, things like that, they're much easier. So you can use them for sort of pocket linings. You can make those bias. Not the never ending bias.
Yeah. Like continuous bias binding.
Continuous bias binding, that's it. So you can get an awful lot of bias out of a really quite small square of fabric.
Yeah, you've got inside yokes.
Absolutely. And if you've managed to cut out cleverly, normally rather than getting lots of sort of odd shaped, sort of octopus looking bits of, you can normally end up with a sort of fairly squarish bit at the end of your piece, which you can then use. So there's lots of little things that you can do, but I would say that the best way is don't ever follow the label. Don't just fold your fabric in half and cut it. It's honestly so wasteful.
Yeah.
Always start with the biggest pieces, because the smallest pieces you will find space for.
Yeah, you could Tetris them in somewhere.
Exactly.
Also, I think like if you're average height or shorter possibly, or you just have a preference for things shorter, like shorten the pattern piece first, at least a bit, if you know you're going to want it shorter.
Yeah.
Like I don't like long, again, like if I can't run for the bus, I'm not going to wear it, So I know that I'm never going to want something super long. So like shortening it a bit, maybe you get your final length when you've got it on, but like shorten it a bit, you can be saving like a decent chunk of fabric just from the off.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the shorter end of the scale, and I know full well that all of the trouser patterns just hang off your feet.
Yeah. So just hold the pattern piece up first.
Yeah.
And think, okay, well, there's definitely at least 20 centimetres or 15 or so that I can save right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then tweak the final fit at the end. Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like much, but
it is though.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
And especially if it means then that you end up with a bigger chunk. I know the pattern designers always sort of slightly over egg the amount of fabric required.
They don't want an email inbox full of
absolutely
angry customers.
Only once has it ever happened to me that I haven't had enough fabric for a project. But all the other times you're left with,
there's almost always a way that you can add an extra seam. Like I literally I've had a little random bit of jersey and I needed some more, just basic vests. Now it's getting chilly and mothers had got all holes in. And I cut out of like a singlet, like a vest. I had enough for the front and the back. I've just added a seam. Like no one's going to see that. It's not in a place that's going to feel weird.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There's always ways that you can squeeze things out of less fabric for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, quite often, not this top, had a defect on some fabric and I was like, but it's too nice and the defect's only small. So if you put the defect underneath the underarm, because nobody ever looks after your underarms, it's perfect. I wear that all the time, that top. The other thing about being sustainable is make sure you're going to wear it at the end of its time, because the number of people that make something for the joy of making it but don't necessarily wear it afterwards,
and they don't think it through, like, is this something that's actually going to fit in with what I do with my life?
Exactly. I think we've all done it to some extent, that we have a make that we really gravitate to and we have ones that less so. But really thinking about it beforehand, make a considered purchase or a considered, because it's your time and effort as well as the joy, the just general joy of sewing it.
But then often if you've made something, you have invested the time and energy and the resources into it and you're not wearing it, then there's some negative emotions that often come with that. So you could have avoided those negative emotions by just not. Or, making the top version rather than the dress, or making the different sleeve that would actually fit under a cardi, or I don't know, do you know what I mean? There's things that you can choose to do.
There's definitely things. Or just, if it's a style that you're not quite sure of, because I've done this, just go to, I don't know, Marks and Sparks or the shop down the road, find something similar, try it on. Does it fit? Do I like it? Okay, fine. I'll go and, now I know I'm committed to that pattern because I know that I've tried on something similar and I'm wearing it. It's not wearing me, or, it will go with the sorts of things that I wear and how I'm going to spend my days running for buses.
Running for buses, always a bit late. So just going back to what you were saying, I just had a question about, you were saying you could always use less fabric than the fabric requirements often state on a pattern. Do you have a rule of thumb, for example, when you were either buying fabric or cutting some off ready to do your project, pre-washing and everything? do you, for example, say you always, because I often say like, right, okay, that is saying I need 2.5 meters. I reckon I can get it in 2. So I always tend to knock off 0.5 meter. Do you have any kind of rule of thumb like that you could suggest?
Yeah, so I would say about 30 centimeters. I'm probably not as generous as you.
You're not as extreme.
Yeah, I'm going to say a good 30 centimeters, but you can normally tell from the style of the pattern. So if it looks particularly roomy or voluminous, or, you know, big wide sleeves, because the sleeves are the thing that get you. The sleeves, everybody thinks about the, you know, the length of, let's say, the dress or the top, but it's the sleeves, the width of the sleeves that will, you know, that will end up adding a lot to your fabric. Yeah, so I would say about 30 centimeters ish.
Okay.
And normally when people come to the stand and they're like, I've got something that says, you know, the pattern says this, I always tell them to buy less fabric.
Do you? Oh, that is so bold. That's very bold.
I know. I mean, there's, you know.
I love it. I hang my hat on this. I want less of your money.
So far, no one's come back to moan at me about it, so maybe I've got away with it.
No, I love that. I bet they really respect that though as well.
Well, you know, I'm a business owner, but I'm also a customer. So I do realise that the last thing you want to do is spend your money. Someone's saying, oh yeah, you'll definitely need an extra 0.5 metre.
It's frustrating, isn't it? When you've got loads left, you're like, I didn't really have a lot of money that month. I could have, yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, we should only really be buying what we need. So, you know, I agree that dressmaking, there's always a little bit of uncertainty, because, yeah, especially if you haven't made that pattern before, or it's you're not sure what project, you know, you've seen the fabric, you're not quite sure what project you want to make with it. But that's the joy of creativity, is that there's always little workarounds and
which I really
solutions.
enjoy those little challenges. But I think a lot of people, especially towards the beginning of their journey, they do get a bit scared. And I mean, when I've been working at the stands at the shows, you do so often people get like, oh, how much do I need for a jacket? And you're like, oh, okay, well, you know, what kind of jacket, what length? And I'm like, okay, maybe 2.5 meters. And they're like, oh, give me 4. You're like, okay, I mean, and you're thinking, I hope you then make a matching skirt.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you'd like people to know about what's coming up for you or your business? What's in store? What's in store for Tanya and Bornella?
Well, sort of Christmas, and then pretty much 1st of January, I start prep for the Stitch Festival.
Stitch Festival. In March in Angel in North London.
Yeah.
I'll see you there.
So, I will be there. My usual spot up on the balcony. So, I will definitely see you there, Zoe.
Lovely. So, where can people, apart from at the Stitch Fest next year, where can people find you and follow you?
Okay, so I am at bornellafabrics.co.uk, or on Instagram I'm at Bornella Fabrics, and they're probably the best places. You can sign up to the newsletter. I don't send it out that often, but when I do, there's something worth knowing about.
It's going to be good. When it comes, it's good. It's worth it.
Quality over quantity. There we go. Maybe I should just say that's my business ethos. Quality over quantity.
Oh, I love it. Well, it also in terms of the way that you suggest people buy fabric.
Well, yeah, true.
Quality, but like don't buy too much.
But not much. Just enough.
Awesome. Thank you so much for talking to me. It's been really lovely. Thank you for spending this rainy Monday morning with me.
Oh, thank you so much for the invite, Zoe. And as always, it's lovely to chat to you.
Take care.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!